My actions honor my vision. My vision reflects my values. My brotherhood shares my mission. Welcome to the Code of Character. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Code of Character podcast. My name is Justin Bailey. I am your host and the founder of Code of Character. Whether this is your first time listening or you've checked out episodes in the past, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for your support. And I want to let you know about a few resources we have here. We have a weekly blog going on at www.codeofcharacter.com. Every week there is an article about self-improvement, a little bit of psychology, a little bit becoming a better man, some good stuff there. So go check that out. If you have not joined our Closed Men's Facebook group, head on over to Facebook after this podcast and join that group. That is facebook.com/group/code-of-character. There is over 3,000 men in that group helping to build each other up and live a life of character and live a life of integrity, a little bit of accountability there. A lot of good stuff going on. Check it out. We also will be starting up registration for our new membership site, The Code, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your support, and on to the episode. Know thyself. This motto has been attributed to over a dozen ancient sages, including Socrates and Plato, throughout history. And as you're going to hear later on in the interview, we're going to talk about that from a mind state issue and kind of dig into some mind state self-awareness type stuff. But I want to talk a little bit more about this from a practical term. I want to talk about the importance that we know ourselves from a physical and an emotional standpoint. We know the things that we're good at, we know the things that we're not good at, and we know the things that we need to work on, and even some of the things that we probably shouldn't work on, and we should just figure out another way maybe to get these things done, whether it's outsourcing some work or possibly going to a counselor or a professional instead of just trying to beat our heads against the wall, trying to make relationships work that aren't working. So it's just extremely beneficial for us to really take some self-inventory, to practice some self-awareness, and just get the basics down of what we are capable of, what we're not capable of, and how are we going to move into the more capable category. It's really going to help our family out. It's going to help society out. It's going to help our community out. But in the end, it's going to help us out. If we know the things that we are capable of, we know our limitations, and we know ourselves. So today, I just want to encourage you to know thyself. I want to take a moment to thank our friends over at Get Hired for sponsoring today's show. Everybody knows in today's job market, a lot of times you got to move out to move up. So if you're looking for a promotion, you're just looking for a job, a raise, or a new career, go check out the guys at Get Hired. Get Hired is a premium job finder course with 3 proven resume templates that stand out, a pre-written thank you letter that doubles your chances of getting hired, with 3 practice interviews that have the 30 most common interview questions ever asked. Right now, members of Code of Character will get $20 off the course when they type in the word code at checkout. Just go to www.lifewisefuture.com/code, and at checkout, type in the word code. You'll get $20 off the course. Get Hired has helped a high school dropout become a college professor, 3 blue-collar workers turn a one-day course into over $16,000 a month take-home, and a man with just a high school diploma make over $200,000 a year. Don't hate Mondays anymore. Don't hate your boss or your bank account. For less than what most people spend on a cup of coffee in a month, you could have a whole new career. Just type in the word code at checkout and land the last job you'll ever need. Again, that's www.lifewisefuture.com/code. Today's guest is Len Wright. Len works with high achievers, entrepreneurs, influential leaders, and big dreamers in letting go of their unresolved issues, breaking through barriers that hold them back, and reaching bigger and loftier goals faster. He brings out personal authenticity. He helps them see their unique gifts and to express them, to live a full life of passion, success, and happiness. That's his goals. He is an energetic guy. He is full of wisdom. And honestly, to someone like me who is a newbie to this whole alchemy process and tapping into the consciousness of your mind and all that high-level stuff that he gets into, it's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our interview with Len. Len Wright, thanks for joining the podcast. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, and really, I appreciate being invited on. We're going to have a blast today.
Absolutely, it's going to be fun. You do something that no other person in the universe I know does. You are a hypnotherapist, and you practice something called NLP, which I did
Yeah.
not know what it was before I first talked to you. And let me just say that you are the anti version of a person I would think that does any of this stuff. I'm thinking of the I'm thinking of the creepy kind of somberish voice lulling somebody, and you are an energetic, ready to go, down to earth, super cool guy. So thanks for joining.
No, seriously, it's you hit it right on the nail right on the head. What I do is very, very different. And I've been doing it for a long time. Started actually training in this stuff in 1994, right around that time, 94, 95, and so it's been a long time. And yeah, I do have a clan. I do know people who do this as well, and we I train with them and stuff. But there aren't a lot of people that do it. There are a bunch of different tools. NLP, you mentioned hypnosis. I use something now along with everything else called accelerated evolution, and it is by far the most powerful thing I've seen in a long and used in a long, long time. So I through those 25 years or whatever, I've just accumulated certifications, trainings, tools, and ways to be able to do what I do better, and I will continue to do that. I'm always an eternal student.
So your website, your tagline is Zen Len Coaching,
Yeah,
but you are different than probably 99% of all
yeah,
coaches out there. So
yeah. I
what's the
can't.
differentiator for you?
Well, number one, I mean, you mentioned just a little bit before we started this, woo woo, the word woo woo, and I love using that word woo woo. It's not that it's a pet peeve of mine. It's that I wish more attention could be drawn to it. Spirituality is all about results. And I'm using the word spirituality. Let's use personal growth. Let's use inner evolution. I don't care what we use. The knowing of thyself, as Socrates suggested, is an inward journey. Okay. And so that inward journey is different for every single person in that way. Nonetheless, there are tools that, get you there faster, better, leveraged. I look for results, not woo woo.
Awesome.
The woo woo gets you woo woo. I want to see actual performance and results from what I use. And the funny thing is there's a crossover, Justin, in the woo woo because we are woo woo. If you really go deep and look at who we are and what we are, there's more that we have no idea about, that we don't understand, than there is that we do understand. We
Right.
think that we're so like, oh, medical doctor, oh, we know this, we know all our body systems, the 12 body, oh, we all know. We don't know depth really about how we work, the consciousness that we are. We have very little understanding. I mean, they say that we use like 1/10 of our potential, our mind's potential. And that's like the geniuses. That's the woo. That's the great, I don't put myself in that, that realm necessarily. So, I mean, really, what percentage do we use of the true potential of who we are and what we're here for?
And you messaged me that one time several months ago and said, what percentage of potential are you using? And I'm not normally at a loss for words, but I had not never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
we
one of
don't.
those things.
We don't because we're too busy running and chasing, right? And that's what I do is I help people actually move from living life in an illusion, hustling, chasing, trying to keep all the balls in the air, caring what other people think about what you're doing, living small, okay? And I move them from that into a place of reality, but not just reality. I mean, that's a big subject unto itself, but creating that reality. And I'm not talking about law of attraction and so forth. I mean, it's in there a little bit, but I'm not. That's one of the woo-woo points,
Right.
right? Law of attraction. Buddha says, all suffering, all desire equals suffering. So for the most LOA, law of attraction is only on your desires, what you want. It's a very shallow conscious level. The deeper levels actually is, is a greater will, and we are conduits of that. So yeah, it's goes from the woo woo, which is an illusion. It's not real. You have to make these experiences tangible for you before they actually are going to shift you at all.
And the other side of that, from my perspective, seems to be the complete results and the man up and the, I'm from the army, so, rub some
Yeah,
dirt
yeah,
on it and soldier on kind of thing.
yeah.
And you seem to be somewhere in the middle of those two
Well,
extreme.
yeah, and that's actually somewhere in the middle is where life really is fruitful. There's a word for it. It's called equanimity. And equanimity is living from a perspective in life where you're not choosing whether that situation or that experience you're going through is good or bad for you, because it hasn't happened yet. Right? It's ridiculous when you really slow things down and think about it. We judge our experiences before they've happened. As they're happening, we look at an experience. Oh, your wife looks at you a certain way that in the past it meant this. It may not mean the same right now. This is a completely new moment, but we look at it and we go, oh, it's the same as last time, and we react and make it into that same monotonous moment. It could be different like that. You could look at her and say something completely different, loving hopefully, that takes it in a different way. But we don't, because we're chasing, because we're living in that illusionary field of our minds and fear. We tend to just cookie cutter all our moments so that they're easier to go through, but they're not. That's not life. That's not life. You'll wake up, hopefully one day you'll wake up, but maybe not. I mean, my dad, I've said this on other, podcasts and other thing. I mean, my dad, 2 days before he passed away, he was sitting on the bed, terrible pain. He had cancer, terrible, horrible experience for him. And he sat in the bed. It was just him and me in the room. And he was all doped up on morphine. He was shaking his head and he said, "What was it all for?
Wow.
What was all that for?" And I was able to draw myself into the experience in the moment as much as my head wanted to take it everywhere else and go, this is important for me here. This is huge. This is a life moment, right? So what can I grab? What can I benefit from this? And it was a huge gift that he gave at that time, because he had lived his life under a, I should do this. This is what's supposedly right. Not what do I want? What do I really want to experience in this smorgasbord of life? No, it's, oh, I got to do this, and I'm looking at this person thinks this, and this person. So he lived his life for everybody else.
Absolutely.
Came to the end of it and realized, holy cow, I missed out. So for me, that was a huge, 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 huge thing. And that was about a decade ago now, that happened. And I'd already been studying and working with this material. So I was able to draw out of that and use it for strength. But the equanimity point is seeing from that point that if we don't live our life in a way that we actually can benefit, and there comes again the results, the performance, then there's going to be a time where all we're doing is creating a time in the future of regret. We're just throwing it in front of ourselves. Just throwing it. I don't have to pay it now. It's just like credit.
That's tough to wrap the head around.
It is. But, it's very valuable, because when you do realize that when I compromise myself in the moment now, even if I think I'm doing it to get myself something, it's still a compromise. It hurts us. And it's a debt that we have to pay somehow. So when you were telling him about the military and the go, and you said I'm sort of in between. That's where I want to ride, is in between. I don't want to be this way. I know what I'm talking about, all that, because their beliefs change. We change. Heck, every 7 years, every cell in our body is different. You are not the same exact person, even cell-wise, than you were when you were 20 years old. You are not in any way, shape, and form. But we carry our likeness on in these physical forms, although we change. And we carry our ego with us, which is our personality, so it keeps us in line. Oh, we're the same person. But no cell in your body is the same as when it was down back then.
So let's back up for a minute here. So if you've got a guy who was myself just a few years ago, and they weren't even open to listening to any of these conversations, mindfulness was the last thing on my mind. This is just who I am. This is how I am. This is me. There's nothing I can do about it. What's that first actionable step that we can bring to the table before we get to the every 7 years cells are completely
You know
new.
what? You know what? I think it starts with questioning and taking a look at things. Number one question I would ask is, am I really happy?
Wow.
Am I ecstatically happy? Not silly, positive, happy. I don't mean that. And I'm not saying that the challenges stop, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying in your moments in your general day, if you go through your week and I just did this with a client, got him to list his 5 emotions that he feels the most in every week. What are your common ones that week after week, this is what you're feeling? And that will tell you how your life is going. If there's the lower is states that you're feeling on a regular basis, your ship is off course. And that's all it means. All of life is an understanding of the relationship that we have with this thing that we're in, this life, right?
That's pretty base level. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, it's
Like
questioning is good. I mean, questioning.
inventory of the 5 emotions that you feel over the whatever a
Yeah,
week or so
yeah,
kind of gives you a good snapshot of life.
yeah. It does. It's like, oh my gosh, and the other thing too happens sometimes is people look at it and go, geez, I'm not as in bad a shape as I thought I was. And in other ways, it's like, holy cow, I didn't really realize the majority of my week is spent in some sort of chaotic confusion, depression, or lower state, or some state where I don't feel like I'm enough. And so that breeds in business, in relationships with our children, with significant others. It breeds all over the place. So that's the first place. And then take an honest look at it. Honesty is that foundation. I spent years, and they probably will too. They'll spend years getting to the point where they're honest with themselves, right? Because we look
That's
at ourselves
huge.
and we go, "Oh, it's not. No, it's not. That's not me. That's not." What the crux of it is, you're trying to see, observe, and accept your shadows. Once you do that, you can finally start letting them go and working with them and turning that lead into gold. But if you don't see them, if you're hiding from them, continually chasing something else, trying to run from them, well, life will teach you. You can't run from those things. They're your lessons. They will
It's not
follow
going
you.
anywhere.
They will follow you everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. And they will get bigger and bigger and bigger until you wake up to them. I mean, I've had numerous of them in my life. And then you start realizing that that old nursery rhyme. I bring it in a lot. It's one of my favorite things now. Is row 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 your boat gently down the stream, merrily merrily merrily. Life is but a dream. It's a Freemasonry song, an old Freemasonry song, and it tells how you should live your life. We're the vessels, right? 72% water, whatever, however 70% water, and so we're rowing through life, the stream of life. How we row through that life comes back to your military background. We can paddle that sucker like this. Ah, I've got that in me. I've got the intensity, but how much energy am I using to
It's
do that?
exhausting.
So instead, we gently roll. And when we're gently rowing, the song says next, merrily, merrily, merrily. Our life becomes happy because we're gentle with ourselves, with others, with our experiences. And when we go through it that way, that merrily, 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 and the secret is at the end because life is but a dream. So the goal is that equanimity, the gentleness, the non-push of life. And I'm not saying when I go to the gym, there's push needed, right? I get under a bench. If I don't have a certain amount of intensity and push, I'm not going to do it. However, it doesn't mean that my emotions get involved and my mind get involved in the way of throwing me off course. So when I get under the bench, I'm not going to do that and wasting all this energy. Focused. I'm actually thinking, it's a trick here. I'm actually thinking of the last best lift that I made that was really easier than I thought. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm
You
putting
just
myself in that position so that then when I open my eyes to go lift, I'm in that state.
you just brought mindfulness to the gym. I've not heard that before.
Yeah. I train athletes. I train bodybuilders. I've worked with a lot of people that way, and it's an effect that the last bodybuilder I trained in using that, his lifts all went up when he was getting ready prep for a contest, and he was on almost 40 grams of carbs for the day, and he did 315 for reps. Never did it before. Because you see, your mind is where everything is at. You know your Bible, and it's within with every holy book, but there's a scripture that says, seek first the kingdom and all else will be added to you. What the understanding behind that is, that inner kingdom, your thought comes before anything you do, any action you take in life. Picking up my coffee or whatever it is, you have to first have an initial thought about it. So if you seek first that understanding, that control, that mindfulness, if you will, then what happens? Flow. Everything else is added to you. It doesn't say, then you can chase everything else. Then you can hustle through it. Then you can push through. It doesn't say anything like that. It will be added to you because you're taking care of the most important thing, thought. It is the foundation of everything you do in your life. So if I'm going to text somebody, if I'm going to send an email, the thought I have beforehand is actually paving the way of that experience. So if I don't look after that thought first, if I'm not in control of that thinking, I'm starting all these chaotic, unfinished balls in the air. And I'm just throwing things all over the place, right? Because I go into this and I'm thinking in my mind, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, push, right? And then in the push, my kid comes up to me, says something, and because I'm pushing, oh, I'm getting irritated. And then this happens, and because, oh, I'm now there. There's no presence to consciousness within that whatsoever. So you become a reactionary in life, and that's what I was talking, to go way back to the start. I take people out of that illusionary life. And I teach them how to be present in their moment and mindful of it. And when you do that, everything else flows.
How does that survive those stressful moments? We talked before we started recording about some of the stress and the chaos in my life, specifically today in my household because of some sick kids and all that good stuff. How do we stay in that flow when all the external chaos hits?
Well, and it's funny because if you actually are observant in your mind, right? One of my favorite quotes is an old East Indian guru named Jiddu Krishnamurti. He's not with us anymore, but one of his famous quotes is, the highest form of intelligence is the ability to think without judgment. And for a lot of people, they're like, what? How do you do that? Learn. It's called third way thinking. It's been called a number of different, but it is consciousness. Because you see, when you label and judge your experience as you go through it, you then have emotional reactions to it, which are then not conscious from you. You're not in control. You're just emoting. And those emotions actually feed the world around you. So if you're getting angry all day, or any time during the day, if you're getting angry at somebody else, there's really not a lot of difference between that energy and someone who's maybe beating their wife. Different levels, of course, but it's the same non-control of the emotion that then goes out in the world as a darker force.
Anytime I explore mindfulness or consciousness, I kind of get in a chicken or the egg situation with the conscious versus subconscious. Mm-hmm. Which informs one or the other, or is it both?
Well, there's been that struggle since, I think time began with.
I'm not the first one.
It, no, it's the back and forth, right? It is, and actually, some of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings point to that in symbolism. It is the crux of growth, is being able to have the marriage of the two brains working together versus apart. And we have a higher brain and a lower brain, cerebrum and cerebellum, right? And it's the same thing. But you got to understand, I mean, we don't have enough time to go fully into it, but this is what I teach my clients about the idea of polarity, okay? And when thinking about subconscious and conscious mind, you always, in this realm, you always have to have two for anything to exist. Everything is not just duality, but polarity, opposites. They have to be tall and short, hot and cold, right? Tall and short. How do you know the thing's tall? Well, because there's something short beside it, or you're comparing something. If there was no short, would it be tall? No, it would just be it. So I'm
can't have one without the other.
Right. So they are of equal value, is what I'm saying. You can't have one without the other. So you have to have both. So they're equal value, even if one is good and one is bad.
So can we control our subconscious?
Well, this is what I'm getting to, is that polarity, that dual, happens to subconscious, conscious. See how that is the both. They're meant to work in tandem to be able to create. So you said, can you control your subconscious? Yes, in a matter you can train. We're using semantics here, so you become, you train. I mean, there's a lot that can explain that, but the idea is when you become conscious, you become aware, present to your thinking, present to your emotions, present to you and how you're encountering the moment. Not in our minds thinking, I got to pay the bill later. I got this fight going on with this person. I got to get oil in my car later. Dang, that dog that bit me 5 years ago. Whatever the heck it is, right? It doesn't really matter. You're not in your moment. You're in your imagination. That's not real. So if you're living your life in here, planning, going on, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening in your real world. It's all a fake life. Because what I say to people is, if you can put in your plans when you're going on, if you can put Bugs Bunny in there, it ain't real. Our mind is meant as a tool. So if you've seen a carpenter with a hammer in the bank lineup, hitting the wall, hitting the counter with the pen on it, all this, going into the corner store, hitting the groceries, what the heck? This is nuts. So what's going on with carpenters? Like, well, I'm a carpenter. This is my tool. Well, yeah, but you use your tool when you need it. Our mind is our tool, not us. There's a difference. But because we live in the illusion and growing up in it and society is all in it and everything else, they don't know the difference. Most people do not know the difference between thinking and being. I can sit without thought and still be alive.
So how do we change? How do we move towards this idea of being in the present without making it another thing that we're chasing and trying to do and cluttering up our life even more?
Number one, you hire me. No, I'm just kidding. You touched on an incredibly valuable point. Do you notice you put the conscious part as another thing possibly? That's the first. See, consciousness is the thing. It's the only thing. Everything else is the other. But do you notice how your thought works? It becomes the thing I fit in when I have time around all the chasing.
Yes.
Well, that's a level of growth. That is a level. At least you're thinking about it. Great. But it takes a lot of work to get from there to the point where it is first. It's the first thing that happens, so it needs to be my first. I look after that first, everything else flows. Look, if I'm going into a business negotiation, big business negotiation, big deal on the table, how can I be the most powerful in that? In my head, as I'm sitting there thinking, what are they thinking? What are they thinking of me? Do they like my tie? Are they thinking this of me? Oh, I'm going to win. They're going to win. Or I'm completely present, not in my head, present with the person. Energy, my body, my mind, everything, my mind is there with them. And I'm not thinking those thoughts anymore. Plus, at the same time, I'm putting myself in an equanimous position where I see benefit both ways for me. If this deal goes this way, I win here. If this deal goes this way, I win here. Now, that maybe I learned something or what, but inside, I'm fully in the place where I'm winning either way here. I don't care which way it really goes. And I'm not in my head, I'm fully present to the person. You can't have a more powerful negotiator. How are you going to sway me? How are you going to manipulate me? Good luck. You're the one, the other end of the table is the one that's in their head going, man, I got to get this deal, because if I don't get this deal, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. And I'm sitting here going, I'm good either way. I'm good right now.
That leads me really to the next thing I was going to ask you is, how does a guy like you, who's down the road a bit in this practice, how do you navigate the world with people who are on the severe other end of the spectrum, whether it's a boss or it's somebody at the store, or even if some people it's their spouse probably? How do you live in that world where you're living an entirely different way?
No, I'm going to use two Bible verses in one podcast. Wow. Jesus, right? Be
Heard of
of
him.
this world, and no part of this world. He was talking about was full presence in this world.
But
But I'm not a part of it.
Christians for 2,000 years haven't been able to figure that out.
Well, That's another subject all into itself, because that's what he was talking about. I mean, he was a very conscious individual. He meditated constantly. He meditated to the point it talks in the Bible about having a condition where blood vessels open in his face and he bleeds. I can't remember the name of that condition, but it is under increasing immense intensity, right? So being part of this experience, but being no part of this experience, leaves me in equanimity. I'm not in, like, we'll go back to the negotiation thing as the example. I'm not in the feeling, the emotion, the chaotic of the experience.
Do people upset you?
Oh, of course, sometimes. I mean, but see, I don't. The part of this is understanding that everything happens for you, not to you. So I'm looking at that person that gets upset. Number one, I don't have to live with them. I turn around and walk away. Right. So good luck living with you. Right. Like, geez, there's a small amount of pity that comes up for me. It's like, man, if I had to live with you every day, they do. That's why they're that way. Right. They hate life. There's no way that they could be enjoying life and snap at you or bully you or do anything like that in conflict. They're unhappy. They may say I'm happy. They may have a beautiful car. They may have millions of dollars. Doesn't matter. Sure. Their actions will tell you what interaction they're having with their life. And if they're a frustrated, confused, angry individual, they have a complete misinterpretation of life. And that's why they're frustrated and they're angry, because they're playing hockey, but they've got football uniform and football training on. They're playing a different game and going, why can't I get it? Because life is not, I was thinking about this morning. This is perfect for this. A lion. Love lions. I use it a lot in my images and stuff like that for my company. Because of the fact, when you see a lion taking care of its pride before it goes on a hunt, and I'm not a hunter, I'm not in, but we're using a lion here. Does he get all ramped up? Do you see him hustle and get himself all worked up? And see a lion pacing really fast. I'm gonna be a lion.
That's not the picture I get.
No, he's just a lion. He just does what he is. And so he knows himself. Know thyself, remember? He knows himself as a lion. So he just goes out. What does he do? Gentle, stalking, gentle, conserving energy, not excess potential being wasted, until, boom, he has to move. Then he does it. And then afterwards, it's over. See, that is how we are supposed to live through life as well. There's always going to be challenges, but how we face those challenges, how we go through those challenges is everything. If I'm, whether in a business or relationship situation, Justin, how am I going to chart my course for the better, my course for the better? It's by actually going through the experience as gentle as I possibly can. Because if I get upset, if I get frustrated with, like you said, do people, upset me? If I get in an entanglement, which I used to all the time, as a teenager, I was a bodybuilder, big guy into MMA all the time and fighting and boxing, and loved fighting with just people, usually bullies. Loved going after bullies.
Right.
It was because I was a bully down inside myself too. I could see that about myself. Right. So.
But you justified it by saying I'm bullying the bullies.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. See, and that's case in point. Right. That's case in point what we're talking about. It's an observation of thyself without resisting. I'm not that. I mean, I did that for years. I'm not, I did. It was. But as I questioned, as I looked at myself and the results I was getting in my life, there's a gradual awakening to it. And so one of the things I would suggest for everybody listening, first thing you need to work on is gentleness of thyself. How many of you, including you, Justin, beat the crap out of yourself when you do something, airballies, wrong or mistake or supposedly fail or anything where you look at it didn't live up to your expectations of how it should go? Yeah. And you beat yourself up. Would you treat your child that way?
Of course not. My heart would break if I watched my child do that, right?
Stop right there. Why is you not heartbreaking for treating yourself like that? Your child is only a product of you. If you don't love yourself, you can't really love anybody else. And you can only love other people to the extent that you love yourself. So when we get after ourselves, drill sergeant, I'm telling you from past, like that guy that was back there that I just explained used to just beat the crap out of himself, make himself feel horrible all the time. Well, what's that winning? Like, how is that moving you forward in life? It wouldn't move you forward if you did that to your child. He would not, he would be stunted, limited, right? You give your son, you give him, them, the confidence. Hey son, look, hey, you tried that. I know you didn't get it right, supposedly, but what did you learn? You know, you're all right as you are. I mean, that's how I'm hoping you're going to be dealing with your children. Well, if you really believe that, it's to yourself first.
Right. Why don't we do that? Treat ourselves that way.
And we don't, because it's a form of self-sabotage, right?
Which we're going to talk about in a later episode.
Yeah,
when I bring you back on.
Yeah, but you see, that form of treating ourselves like that, we have to wake up to the point sooner or later that it's not getting the results. That's more woo-woo than anything, because it's not tying any results with it, with the behavior, with the action of I'm thinking this, I'm focusing on how I'm an idiot, but I'm not thinking of what that's creating. That is a cause. The effect is something in your life when you start awakening.
The more you talk about this, I think of, as a huge sports fan my whole life, I think of how much this parallels to an athlete in the zone when they talk about that
100%.
everything
Yeah.
slowing down and all they could see is, you know, the basket becomes giant, and you know, it really just parallels that when I hear you speak on it.
Yeah, it is. It is the same zone. Because it's focused differently because it's athletics, right?
Sure.
But it can be the same zone as when you're with your wife or your girlfriend or your significant other, whatever that may be, where you're sitting and they're hurting, suffering in some way, shape, and form because they're beating themselves up inside their mind, or they're doing something like that. With the knowledge and growth that you go, oh, this is what I do myself, and damn, that hurts me. They're doing that too right now. So the zone changes. The zone is presence.
Yeah.
The zone is presence to what you're doing. And so you use the zone presence in there where all of a sudden I'm out of my head of the agenda of what I'm going to get out of this and how I would, all about me, just drop that. And I'm there for that significant other. And I create this space where they feel loved, supported, and that there's nothing more important in that moment than them. Because I'm not in my head. I'm fully there. They can feel it. So it's the same thing, that presence with your business. Like I was talking about the negotiation. Presence with your children. That's all children all want, listeners. If you're having problems with your children acting out,
Presence.
you're not there with them. Even though you're physically there, you're mentally not there with them. And they can feel it. Guaranteed they can feel it. We don't have enough time to explain it, but I have proof.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
so I mean, being present in your life, and it's also questioning. Some of the things people can take about this, question themselves. Question everything and all the time. Not to a point where you're actually looking for actually an answer, but you're examining like an investigator, like a scientist. I refer to it as scientific illumination, because you're looking at your life like a scientist, not like judging it. Scientist doesn't break down crying because one of the things didn't work out the way he wanted. It's just information to him to go on to the next thing so that he can get closer to his goal. That's all we're supposed to be meant to do.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Len, I would love to just let you talk for like 2 more hours. I only got through like 3 things out of my list there I want to talk to you about. I'm going to put you on the spot here, though. You've been talking for 35 minutes or so, and I'm going to just going to ask you, for our listeners, can you give one sentence of wisdom just to leave them with? That maybe they're overwhelmed by the first 30 minutes of talking, but one nugget, one sentence that they can just stew on after you've just talked for 35 minutes.
No, it's there. If you only knew who and what you were, you'd never, ever, ever give in to those thoughts that put you down.
Wow. That's off the cuff. That's nice.
Yeah.
Say it one more time, Len, of course.
Good luck. It's going to be another. Know thyself, because once you know thyself, all power will come to you. If you know who you are, you then know who everybody else is and what your part is to play.
I know when we went through a session a couple weeks ago, and you used the term true self, I believe, and that really, really resonated with me because truth is huge, you know, and just getting back to our true self, or maybe getting there the first time, I think, for a lot of us. So that's
and
huge.
it comes in gentleness. You don't get growth by forcing the bud of a flower to grow, pinching it. You don't get it to grow, you kill it. You let it grow by watering it, by taking care of it, by showing it love. And it's the same as you. So whether you're in the military, whether you're a Navy SEAL, or whether you're a mom first time, it's all the same answer. Know yourself and stop treating yourself like you should know better. This is your learning. It's a part of your learning. How do you know better when you're in the lesson?
Love it.
Would you learn math that way? I should know this before even looking at it.
Right. Absolutely. I love it. Know thyself. I love that, Len. So I appreciate you. We're out of time now. I want to give our listeners a chance to know how to connect with you. Where do you hang out? What are you offering? What's Zen Len up to?
Most of the time hanging out on my deck. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll have to give us coordinates. We'll have to give us coordinates.
I hang out on my
drop
deck
a Google Maps pin.
You can actually can't. No, my site is probably the best where to start. I've got some information there at zenlencoaching.com. ZenLen coaching.com. And there's actually a course that I have, a video course that's there that's a great entry-level introduction to who I am, to what I do, and at the same time, it gives absolutely a huge shift in your life. It is only a real short little course, but dang, I've heard such amazing results from people going through it. It's kind of mind-boggling. But it's simple. It's a great way to be able to get to know what I do, and it gives them huge value, and there's no cost, there's no obligation, there's no upselling, there's no nothing. It's just off my site, go put the email in, and it's change in 3 days is basically what it's all about.
And it's zenlencoaching.com?
It is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Len. It was a privilege and an honor. It's always great to talk to you because there's so much wisdom that comes out of you and the energy. I love it, brother. Thank you so much for coming on and talking.
It's been awesome, and I look forward to the next time, Justin. Thank you.
Awesome. Talk soon, Len.
Thank you for listening to the Code of Character podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share with your friends on social media. Actions, honor, vision.
Looking to record your very own high-quality podcast? Check out Podcast Center LA. Mention this show and get $10 off your first recording.